Hi everyone, welcome back to Sew with Shande. This is a well-detailed tutorial on how to make this stylish shirt top, which is a sleeveless top and it has an extension, a peplum extension with a cut together shirt collar. If you are interested in learning how to make this, all you need to do is to stay with me till the end of this video. Do well to subscribe, like and share if you are not yet subscribed to my channel. Thank you so much and let's get started already. So I ended up making use of 2 yards of Ankara fabric. If you are of the small size, you can make use of 1.5 or 2 yards, depending on your size. So this is what I'm going to be making use of now, and I'm going to start with the front part. So I have my fabric on a fold of 2 here. Then I'm going to mark my 1/2 inch for starting point. Okay. Then after that, I'll mark the length of my half length. I'll mark my half length here. Then I'll mark 1/2 inch for sewing allowance to join to the down part. Okay, so I'm going to cut that out. So now, in order for you to know what to fold here, just mark 2 inches for your bottom placket, then your round bust divided by 4, then 1/2 inch for ease and 1 inch for sewing allowance, or whatever you want to use for your sewing allowance. Okay, so I'm going to do that and I'm going to cut it out. So now I have cut it out and this is what I have here. So now I'm going to mark the 2 inches for my bottom placket first. I'll mark it like so, and I'm going to connect the lines all the way down like this. So once I'm done with that, now I'm going to mark my shoulder measurement divided by 2. I'll put it down and I'll just mark it right here. Then I'll mark the shoulder slope of 1 inch. All right, so just mark your 1 inch shoulder slope here. So I'm going to mark my neck width now. So if you have a smaller size, you can make use of 2.5 inches for the neck width and neck depth. But if you are big, you can make use of 3 inches for the neck width and the neck depth. Okay, so I'm going to mark, I made use of 3 inches here, and I'm just going to mark it like so. All right, so once I'm through with that, I'm going to connect my shoulder slope to the neck depth like this, to the neck width, sorry. So once I'm done with that, now I'm going to mark my armhole. So my armhole depth is 9 inches. So but because I'm working with an armless top, I marked 8 inches. I removed 1 inch from my armhole depth. Okay, I hope you know how to make to get your armhole depth. Your round bust divided by 6 plus 1.5 inches. So I'm going to just connect my armhole like this. So now I'm going to be marking my round bust now. So I'll mark my round bust divided by 4 plus 1/2 inch for ease and 1 inch for sewing allowance. Then I'll mark it like so. Okay, so once I'm through with that, now I'm going to come to the waistline here. I'll mark from this line here. From this line, I'll mark my round waist divided by 4 plus 1 inch. I'm not adding any ease on the round waist. Okay, just 1 inch for sewing allowance. All right, then I'll come to this part here and I'm going to connect the lines just like so. Okay, I'll connect it like this and I'll come to the armhole here and I'll connect my front armhole. Okay, so just connect with your armhole curve all the way like so. So now once I'm through with that, now I am going to come to the shoulder right here. I'll come to the shoulder line right here to the slopey area, and I'm going to come here and I'm going to measure the width of how I want the armless to be. Okay, so here I made use of 2.5 inches. If you want it bigger, you can make use of 3 inches. So I made use of 2.5 inches. So the 2.5 is what I marked, then I added my allowance for sewing it later. Okay, so I have 2.5 inches right there. So 1/2 inch is going for stitching the neck, so I'll just connect into this armhole part like so. Okay, I'll connect the 2.5 inches into the armhole part like so. Then I'll just make it visible for you to see what I have marked on this part. Okay, so now once I'm through with that, I'm going to come here and I'm going to extend my round neckline to this button placket area. and I'm going to start cutting it out now. Okay, so I'll just cut it out from this part. Make sure you add your allowances before you cut it out. Do not make the mistake of not adding your allowance. Then on the armhole area, I will also add my allowance of 1/2 inch, and I'm just going to cut it out like so, following the shape that I've made. So now I'm going to place this button placket part area. I'm going to push it inside to push it in so that I can be able to place it on this part here to cut out the back. Okay, I have another fabric like this and I'm going to use it to cut out the back. Exactly what I have at the front part is what I'll be cutting out. Okay, so just watch the way I'm cutting it out like this. You are cutting out exactly what you have on the front parts. All right, just cut it like so, and we'll have exactly the same thing. So once I'm through cutting it out now, I'm going to come here to the back part and I'm going to mark my 1/2 inch starting point here. All right, so I'm going to mark it here. So once I'm done marking that, I'll connect the lines just like so. And once I'm done connecting, what I'm going to do now is to mark the 1/2 length for the back. Okay, remember our 1/2 length is not always the same, so I'm going to mark my back 1/2 length now. I'll mark it like this. So mine is 2 inches difference, like the difference between the front and my back 1/2 length is 2 inches. So I'm going to mark it like so, and I'll connect it just like this. Okay, then I am just going to cut it out. All right, I'll cut out the 2 inches like so. Now once I'm done cutting that, I'm going to come up to this part here and I'm going to mark my neck depth and neck width, okay, of 3 inches. So like I said, if you are making use of 2 inches at the front, make sure you make use of 2.5 inches, sorry, at the front and at the back. So I'll mark 1 inch depth for the back and I'll connect it just like so. Okay, then I'm going to, once I'm done with that now, I'm going to just cut out the neck area like this. Okay, then I am also going to cut out the neck part for the front part as well, because we haven't cut it out before. Okay, so just cut it out like this, and once you're done with that, I'm going to cut out this shoulder slope now. I'm going to cut it out with my 1/2 inch allowance. Okay, make sure that you have your 1/2 inch allowance so you will not have any shortage on the length part. Okay, so I'll cut it out like this and I'm going to place it on the back and I'll use it to cut out the back shoulder slope area. So I'll open this part first now before cutting out the shoulder slope area. Okay, so I'll notch this 2.2 inches that I have here. I'll notch it at the down part and also at the front part. All right, then I'll place the back like so, and I'm going to use the front to cut out the shoulder slope. I hope you understand. So once I'm done with that, I'm going to come here and I'll place the back part on the front part like so, making sure that they are equal, and I'm going to shape the down parts of the front part so that they can be even. All right, so I'll mark my 1 inch sewing allowance here. I'll just mark it like so. So once I'm done marking it now, what I'm going to do is to come inward here by like 4 inches. I'll mark it like so, then I'm going to shape it. Okay, so I will shape it from the down part into the 1 inch allowance. So make sure you do not shape it into your allowance so that it will be okay at this part. All right, so mark your 1 inch allowance, then start shaping it after the 1 inch allowance to the down part like so. All right, so you have to mark your preferred 1/2 length for the front. All right, then I'm going to cut it out. So yours might be 1 inch or 1.5, so just mark it. So once I'm done marking now, I'm going to come here and place the front part together like so, the right side and the front part and the left side. So the right part is going to be overlapping the front part. I hope you understand. So that part that is overlapping is this part here, which is the right side. I'm going to fold it with 1 inch first, then another 1 inch again. I hope you understand. 1 inch first, then 1 inch again, which makes our 2 inches. So this is the second part here, and the second part here I'm going to place it now, and I'm going to fold towards the wrong side. I'm going to fold with 1/2 inch first, then I will now fold with 1 inch again. I hope you understand. So I'm going to iron the 1/2 inch first, and I'm going to fold with 1 inch again. Then the 1/2 inch that is remaining is going to be what I will use for the overlapping. I hope you understand. So I'm going to use that for the overlapping to the other parts. I hope you understand. So I'm trying to explain in detail so you will not get confused at any part of this video. Okay, so just stitch down at the edge like so, and I'm going to repeat the same thing to the other side as well. Stitch it down after folding. So once I'm done here, I'm going to use my bias to fold in the armless part here on the 4 sides. I'll use my bias tip to finish it like so. Then once I'm through with that, here is what I have. So I'll place it on each other like so, and I'm going to stitch down the shoulder with my 1/2 inch. Okay, I'll stitch down the shoulder with my 1/2 inch like so, and I'll repeat the same thing on this side as well. All right, so, and I'll come to this side here, and I'm going to stitch down with my 1 inch sewing allowance on this side here. Stitch down with your 1 inch sewing allowance, and if you have excess around your waist, make sure that you hold it in well. So now we are going to be cutting out the collar. So before cutting it out, we are going to measure what we have around the neckline. So measure what you have around your neckline, and measure it round like so. So once you get your value, you are going to put it down, and we are going to be cutting out the pattern of the neck of the collar now. So I have my shoulder, I have my starting point marked on the side and on the down part here. I'll mark whatever I get, which I got 16.5. I'll divide it by 2, and I'll mark whatever I have here. I have 8 3/4. Then I'll mark my 8 3/4 inches here. So I'll come up for the first collar height. I'll mark 1 inch. You can mark whatever you want, either 1 inch or 1 1/4. So I'll mark 1 inch here for my first collar height. So I'll connect it like so. Then once I'm through with that, I am going to come here, and I'll come in here by 1 inch. So I'm going to just have a little curve around this part here. Then I'll curve it like this. So once I'm done curving it like this, I am going to also curve the down part here a little bit. Okay, so I'll just curve it around here a little bit. Okay, so once I'm through with that, I'm going to, for this part here is actually the front part, and here is the back. Okay, so I'll come here, and I'll just extend this line so I can have a straight line. So I'll remark it so I can have a straight line here. I'll remark it here, and I'm going to cancel the first line here so I will not be confused. Okay, I'll just cancel it here so that I will not be confused. So from this part here, from the collar height here, I'll mark 2.5 inches, which is for my second collar height. Okay, then I'll mark 2 inches here for my second collar height. Then I'll just connect it like this, but I will not make it straight like this. I'll make it a little bit curvy around here. All right, so I'll just make it a little bit curvy around here like this. Then I am going to, once I'm done with this, I'm going to just extend this part here. I will extend it with about 1/2 inch, just to have a pointy edge around here. Okay, I will extend it with 1/2 inch. Then I will connect it from that extension from here to the 1 inch here. Okay, I'm just going to connect it like so. All right, so just connect it like this, and we are going to be having our cut together collar. So instead of cutting the normal 2-piece collar, you can cut this as well. It will not waste your time, and it's very easy to cut and sew. So here is what we have with our cut together collar, and I'm going to be cutting it out now. So just watch the way I am cutting it out like so. and then I am going to cut it like so. Okay, then I'll cut this part out as well. So I'll cut it out on my fabric now, and here is what I have. So I have ½ inch all around, ½ inch all around here, as you can see, ½ inch here and here, then ½ inch on this part as well. Then this part here is on fold. Okay, so I'll be cutting another pieces of this again. So I have my 2 pieces here placed on each other, right side facing each other like so. Then you can add your stay in between. Then I'm going to stitch, leave ½ inch here, then start stitching with your ½ inch inward and all the way like so. Stitch all the way with ½ inch all the way like this, then stitch down with ½ inch again and stitch following the shape. Okay, then you're going to leave ½ inch here as well again. Okay, so once I'm done stitching, this is what I have. So I have turned it to the right side. Make sure you notch the parts inside the fabric. Make sure you notch it so you can relax on this part. Then I'm going to stitch on this part here to make it look like a 2-piece collar. I'll stitch it here, just like to demarcate it, you understand? So I'll just stitch it down like so. So once I'm done stitching, I'm just going to place it like this, and I'm going to notch the midpoint. I'll notch the midpoint here. So once I'm done notching, I'll place one part of the collar right side facing each other at the middle back neckline. Then I'm going to place the ½ inch that we left at the on the bottom placket, okay, on the edge of the bottom placket. So I'll just place it like so, and I'm just going to stitch it down with my ½ inch allowance all the way, and I'm also going to repeat the same thing for the other side. Right, once I'm done placing it like so, I'm just going to stitch all around with ½ inch. So once I'm done, I'm going to push in the rough edges, and I'm going to use the second ½ inch to cover it up like so. I hope you understand. So just cover it up like so, cover it up, and make sure that the edge is on the stitch that you already have there. It's going to be on the stitch that you already have there. The edge of this one you are folding in should be exactly on top of the stitch that you already have there. So you're going to stitch down with ½ inch, stitch it down tiny at the edge. All right, so once I'm done with that, when I wore this fabric here, when I wore this cloth, I noticed that I have a little bulgy around the armhole area. So I'm going to measure 5 inches from this part here to get this part here. Then from that part, so I'm going to hold in about 2 inches. So I'm going to hold in about 2 inches. You can hold in 1.5, it's totally depending, but I held in about 2 inches. You can hold in 2 inches as well. So from the midpoint where I marked my 5 inches, I'll just mark straight like a dart. I'll mark 4 inches like so. Okay, so I'll mark 4 inches like so, and I'm going to hold in my 2 inches like so on the dart on the wrong side. Then I'm going to stitch it down like a dart to the 4 inches like so, and I'm going to repeat the same thing for the other side. All right, so just stitch it down and repeat the same thing for the other side here. So once I'm through with that, now here is what I have. So what I'm going to do now is to measure round from the first bottom placket to the second bottom placket. I'll measure around what I have on my waist. So I'll measure around what I have there. So what I have there now, I have 42 inches here. So my round waist is 38, which means that I have excess of 4 inches. So I'll place the front part, the other side, I'll mark 2 inches, and I'm going to place this part on the 2 inches that I have here, so that I can hold in the 4 inches on my waistline. I hope you understand. So I marked 2 inches on the bottom placket area, and I'm going to stitch it down with 1/4 inch like so, so I can have my actual waistline. So once I'm done stitching it down, this is what I have here. So what I'm going to do now is to measure one part of the waist round, and I'm just going to measure the back, and I'll measure it from one part of the back to the second part of the back. Okay, to the second part of the back here, and I have my 19 inches. So now I am going to place this fabric here, and the length here is about 11.5 inches, 10 inches for the length, 1 inch for folding at the hem of the down part, and half inch to join to the upper part. Okay, so I have this on a fold of 2 right here, and I am going to mark my half length, like the round waist divided by 2. So I'm going to divide it by 4, and I'll mark it on this part right here. So 19 divided by 2 is what I marked right here. So I'll come down by half inch, and I'll mark it like so. Then I am going to notch down the half inch. Okay, this part here now is for one part, which is the back part, and I'll cut out another one for the front parts. I hope you understand. So I'll notch it like this. So by the time I open it up now, I am going to have, so from this first notch here to the second notch here, what I have here is 19 inches. Okay, so this is 19 inches, and I'm going to cut out exactly the same thing for the front part as well. All right, so once I'm done cutting it out, I am going to fold in from this notch here. I'll fold in to the side with the half inch. So when I get to this part here, I'll also fold in this side here. Then I'll fold in my hem also into 2. I'll also fold it like so with my 1 inch allowance. Okay, so for the front parts, I was trying to do this and I didn't know my phone was not recording. So for the front part at the hemline, from the hemline I came up by 3 inches here, because I made a little shape at the front. Then from this midpoint I came in by 15 inches. Okay, so I just shaped it from the 3 inches to the 15 inches right here. Okay, then I cut it out. So that is the shape I made to the front part. Then so once you're done with that, you're going to fold towards the wrong side with your 1 inch and just hem it down like so. Okay, so now we are going to bring our bodice now and get the midpoint of the back parts, and I'm going to place it like this, and I'll put the notches together, pin it down, and I will stitch down into this part. So before stitching, I'll just cut out this part a little bit so it can relax on this part and it will not be pulling itself. Okay, so place one edge, the joining on this notch area, and then you're going to stitch from the half inch here. You are going to stitch all the way down to the midpoint, and you can repeat the same thing for this other side as well, and stitch all the way. Just notch the part and stitch all the way. So repeat the same thing for the front side, and this is what I have about 14 inches extension after joining. So this is what I have. Thank you so much guys for watching. If you find this video helpful, do not forget to subscribe, like and share. I am going to see you on my next video. Thank you so much, and bye.